Really honored to be here with Hans Wilhelm. I have another video that introduces his work and what I've learned just a little bit in that video. In this video, I'm hoping to really dive deep into some of the questions that I've been wanting to ask him. And I hope that this conversation is interesting, particularly for a lot of the folks in my audience who are content creators, solopreneurs, people who are we're often thinking about how do we succeed in business, and therefore a lot of the media we might be watching or books we're reading are about success and accumulation of money and things like that. And I also know that all of us here, probably anyone who follows me, tends to be more spiritual, and we all want to develop a livelihood that is really soul based, that's based on the expression of our soul, not just because of making money. You would go other channels for that. So I think we're going to have a very interesting, I'm going to love this conversation with Hans, because I think his perspective on success, money making, and advice for us content creators. And we're also going to talk about things like tech and AI, which you all know I talk about as well. And how does the spiritual world fit into all this? I think it'll be very interesting. And so, without further ado, Hans Wilhelm, it's so good to meet you. I'm
George, it's
honored.
a delight to be with you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
Let's see what comes up.
absolutely. So I know hosts typically ask you to tell your entire life story before they get into questions, and you have a fascinating life story, which I already introduced in the other video, and I'm going to link to other interviews that people can watch from you. So I'm just going to dive right into, I think, some of the more interesting questions, or questions that you don't get asked as often. And I want to start with the law of attraction. Okay, because a lot of us, small business owners, and particularly I would say spiritually based, you know, people who are trying to succeed in our careers, we naturally gravitate towards law of attraction because it seems like a spiritual way to succeed, right? And the first time I came across law of attraction, as many of us, was The Secret, the movie from decades ago now, it seems. And honestly, I was really surprised and kind of disgusted by it. I couldn't even finish watching it because it was about red sports cars. It was about sitting on the couch and just like, imagining money coming in the mailbox, and you go out and there's money there. And I know this is a bit of a caricature because, of course, you have to take action and all that, but it's so much a fixation on, okay, yeah, every day I have to imagine the details of the house that I want. And, it's so much materialism there. And I was taken aback because a lot of my spiritual friends, well, not me, I really think are genuinely spiritual people, were swept up in all the hype, and they started, visualizing and and so, having heard some of your conversations in other interviews, I'm gonna now call it the law of attachment instead of the law of attraction. I would love for you to share with the audience your view on that, because it's interesting, because I saw your interview on another channel where like that host was very into the law of attraction, and I felt like there was some disconnect there. I mean, I think you were trying to express your views clearly, but I'm not sure that the audience heard it. So I'd love for you to share in whatever way you'd like to about this.
Well, I think the law of attraction is probably the strongest law in the universe. Like attracts like. This the whole universe from all the planets, everything, every thought, any vibration. Because we are in a vibrational universe. It's basically if we go down, all it is energy and vibration. Everything, even our atom, doesn't really exist. It's just energy and vibration. And that is always linking to like attracts like. The like vibration attracts like. So that law is absolutely right. And the movie at that time was well done. I must say it's a extremely well done movie. And I'm not surprised that so many people were convinced by it. But of course, it had a few flaws. One major flaw, which is when you continuously sit in your chair and you imagine you want this red sports car, just say this is every day, I want a red sports car. I'm imagining I'm driving a red sports car. What you're basically sending out is, I am lacking that red sports car. So instead of singing out what you want, you're basically every day reinforcing the lack of what you don't have. So basically, for this reason, it often doesn't work. Um, but it also can work for some people who really intensely believe it and, as you said, work on it and strive for it. And then they finally have their red sports car, which is fine for them. But I like to always go to the source and find out what is it that is lacking in my life that I so desperately want. Um, and when I look at it, it can be a lovely home, it can be a partner, it can be a sports car, and so on. But what I really, really want is the feeling of the thing or the person. It's the feeling. The item is not the thing. The car, if after 3 months, is an old car. I'm not really excited anymore. And so is my new home. I get used to it very quickly. Everything what I acquire, I get used very quickly. But I long for that feeling, which I think that entity, that person, or that can give me. So I look into what is it that I need so desperately that what I think so need. What is this feeling? And when I can locate it, Christ said, whatever you want in life, give it firstly to others, and then you will have it. And I think that's a better way to receive what it is. For instance, I'm thinking of a friend of mine who was very lonely and very depressed and so on. And so she lived in an apartment in Manhattan, and even with all the people around it, she felt very lonely. But one day she decided she was going to make some gifts, I don't know, some cards or what, for neighbors in the same block to have two little kids for their birthday. And she never spoke to them, but she liked the kids. So she knocked at the door, gave them this gift. And she was invited and so on. And out of this came a wonderful friendship with the woman, with the family. So she gave something, a little bit of love to someone, and love comes back to you. And when we give love to someone else, when we give joy to someone else, always remember that love and joy comes firstly through us. We are always the first beneficiary of whatever we give. It can be also negative. Whatever negative we give goes firstly through us. So this is just one way of looking at it. And if we force too much the law of attraction according to the secret, and it says, I want to live on a beautiful mansion on the beach somewhere in California, and that is my goal. And I work very, very hard, and I can achieve it because our free will allows us to make any changes in our life that we want. Our life is not predetermined. There are only sort of markers, but the whole life we can change at any given moment. So if I forcefully, willfully change everything and I get my house in California and live there and ever after, I may be missing the fact that in truth, I should have been moving to Colorado and meet there my future partner and become a teacher, whatever it is, and will fulfill my life's purpose much more. So we can deviate our path from our originally planned path. And that's a danger when we are so attracted to these outer things which the law of attraction movie so much advertises. You can have everything you want. But then I see another danger. If we are so attracted to these outer riches, if we give all our energy to these riches and we get them, will we be able to let go of them when we die? And many can't. And that's why we have got a lot of earthbound souls, souls which are so in love with their possessions, so identify with their possessions, or with their partners, or with their job, with everything they have here on planet Earth, that they have a great problems to let go of this earthly life and move on in the spiritual realm. They become earthbound souls, and we have got millions and millions living among us. So I would be careful. The law of attraction, yes, exists. Let's use it positively. Let's try to have positive thoughts, and positiveness comes back to us. But when we have got the specific big, big goals, let us find out, why do I want this particular goal? Do I want to impress people? Do I want their recognition? Do I want to hurt somebody back, etc.? And what is this feeling which is behind it? Explore the feeling. And from the feeling comes our original intention. Why? What is the intention? Because the law of karma goes by the intention. So what is my intention? Is my intention to really get the approval of other people? Therefore, I want wealth, rich, and impress others. Is my intention I want money so that I don't feel poor and suffer? What is the intention? The intention is the key element that creates later our karma and will eventually come back to us in one way or the other. That's a lot, I think.
No,
But you asked
it's
for it.
wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm so glad, and I'm gonna listen to this again to think more deeply about this. I love that you said this. It's about the intention underneath the red sports car, the mansion on a hill, the, beautiful partner or whatever. And maybe it can be boiled down to we are I mean, the sort of the traditional dichotomy of fear and love, right? It's like if I want to be rich, a lot of us are thinking, well, if I strive for financial freedom, at least I'll be financially secure. It's kind of like if I strive for a huge goal, at least I'll get part the way there, and then I won't be afraid of not being able to pay my rent or buy groceries or support my family or support causes. And so I want to move on to this question. A lot of spiritually inclined um, uh, business people are kind of aiming for, well, I want to be so wealthy. I don't need to be a billionaire, right? I think a lot of people in my audience, I don't care about being a billionaire, but a lot of us want to have so much money that we can then therefore have all this money at our disposal to give to causes that we care about, that we believe are important in the world. And so at the end of the day, it seems like a positive intention. Oh, I know I don't want the money for myself. I want the money to support my family, my community, the children who are starving, children in war torn countries, things like that. And yet the road there, um, some people never get there, by the way. Of course, some people strive all their life because they're supposed to be a philanthropist, and they never get the. I mean, it's sad. I've seen a lot of. I've been in my business, helping other business owners for 16 years, so I've seen a lot of people try.
Mhm.
And I'm just curious, what is your thought on this? I mean, this intensity of using the law of attraction seemingly for good end, which is I want to be a philanthropist, and yet the middle of that is all about, well, I'm gonna cut corners here, or I'm gonna like really hype up my product here. The marketing becomes, it's like turning us into little manipulators, when we learn marketing a lot of times. And so I'm just curious how you might speak to that sort of journey and that intention at the
Well,
end.
I think everybody has got different motivation and intention, and that
Yeah,
is difficult to generalize here. But of
right.
course, I really want to become this big financial philanthropist. Why do I want to do that? Do you want the recognition? Will I really be able to give $1 million all my money away with anonymously without anybody ever knowing that I gave the money away? Am I really honestly can do that? If I can do this, there is some validity behind it. But most of us want to use this, maybe many of us may use this idea so that we also get some wealth and we don't have to worry about money. So therefore we can give them to others. And there's nothing wrong in giving it to others, but it's always the intention. What is it behind? If I want to, why do you think I have to help so many people? Isn't it maybe my purpose in life here to just have a clean relationship with my mother-in-law or with my brother or with my sister? Isn't maybe that's the main purpose why I'm here? From day to day, every day we are having giving challenges. Everybody has got his own unique challenges. Every day is created by our past karma, by all what we did in the past against the law of love, coming back to us in small doses. It can be somebody cutting us in the traffic. It can be somebody, the bad phone call, the email, the being fired from work, whatever it is, whatever we encounter is nothing the reaping of the seed that we have sown earlier. Everybody is really basically reaping their own, harvesting their own seeds from long ago in this lifetime or previous lifetime. So every day is different. So when we focus really concentrated on the day, what is this day bringing me? Why do I have this email? Why do I have this phone call? Why do I get fired, etc.? Let's focus on that one and let's clear that up as much as we can. We can still have the great grand idea for our life, but when we are interested in numbers, how many people I want to save, quote, financially, with spiritual advice or whatever, it's always our ego. We are here maybe only for one smile, Gabriele used to say. Gabriele, as you don't know, is my teacher of whom I've been working, whose material I've been using for the last 40 years, and you see in the back of on the shelves here. She said it very clearly. Some incarnate only to give one little smile to a person when they need it at most. And that smile can really change their life. That may be all why we are here. Maybe we don't have to be these rich Rockefellers to give a lot of money. There's nothing wrong being rich and Rockefeller, but money is usually a side effect. When we do something what we really enjoy doing it, we may automatically acquire money. I enjoyed totally making my books as a writer, and there was one book series after the other. I was totally high on what I was doing. And I was making at the time enormous lot of money, but I hadn't even have time to spend it. So thank God for my accountant who invested it. But it wasn't the money I was making. It was just the joy, whatever I'm doing. And when I give joy to others, it comes back to me. At that time, it came back in financially as well as many other ways. So when we focus on something that we really enjoy doing and we share it with others, the money usually will come in one way or the other. And therefore, I think that should be the main focus. Money is a byproduct. And when we have a lot of money, there's a lot of responsibility. If we inherit a lot of money suddenly like this, there's a reason why we have that money and what do we do with it? And that's our own soul can only answer that. There is no general rule for that. So we are all in that situation. But to use money for the reason of being a philanthropist later on, I don't know whether that is a real, genuine, true intention of why we want that money. It could be. Everybody is different.
I really appreciate your gentle response to that, because I see in my industry fellow business mentors and business influencers um, influencing their audience with particular numbers, like, oh, make six figures. I've joined my program and make a six-figure business, or now it's seven figures and maybe eight figures now, because of inflation. But
Mm.
it's or it's like, oh, get a million followers, like people like me tend to influence and um, plant the seed and continually water the seed of a particular number.
Mhm.
And we say, well, it's because it's exciting. It helps our audience, or helps our clients have a goal, and that moves them to take action. And it's like, okay, yes, that's right. I can have, and law of attraction builds into this. Oh, I can have a million followers, or I can have,
Mhm.
$10 million so that I can give money to people. And I really like that you said, okay, the focus on the numbers is probably from the ego, and the soul probably doesn't care about numbers, because I do believe, like you said, that we all have uh, some planning in our lives, such that the soul tries to steer us, or divine tries to steer us in certain directions, and there's a reason why we were born with particular privilege or lack of privilege, right? And there's a reason why we have business failure or business success. I don't, I'm not going to chalk it all up to my efforts that I was successful or not successful, right? And so I want to touch on that. Like, how might you advise somebody who is feeling discouraged, or is thinking, gosh, I have got to do things in my business right. So, and just to get a little bit of context for people, what you said, you loved your work and you were materially successful, but you weren't thinking about that. You were thinking about the enjoyment of the work. And that's what I try to tell people. I try to help with joyful productivity. I try to spread that message. And yet your books, you were a children's illustration author. Your books have sold 40 million copies, right? Over the lifetime, and probably more now. and you were encountered with this material, and you didn't really plan for it. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know, maybe you did. Maybe you had milestones along the way. Okay, now I'm at 1 million sales. Okay, now let's go for 10 million, or maybe not. But how might you advise a friend who is building a business on how then do we set goals? You know, like what should we how much should we fixate on our goals? Oh, I made this much last year. Well, this year I'm gonna up that 15%, you know.
Um, I don't think I'm a perfect advisor for the financial success of
Just
other
curious
people.
about your
Yeah,
view about how
but
spirituality
I
fits into
just take
this.
the
Yeah.
example of a farmer.
Okay.
The farmer has to plan. He has to put energy into, he has to put seed into the ground, he has to prepare the ground to have a crop eventually at the end of the year. There is so much he can do, and he does, and the rest he puts into the trust of God. God maybe give the rain, not rain, sunshine, the fruit, the harvest may be disastrous, may be wonderful. There's only limited what we can do. However, what he does with conviction and with belief and with trust every year. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I think the key is element is basically to stay with what you want, what you feel, what you do, what you feel is your calling, and do that as much as you can. Now, if you have got a big family with 5 children and so on, things are, of course, a little bit different because you have to have a certain income. Therefore, I'm holding back to give any advice to people who are in such a struggling situation. But basically, it is planning, yes, preparing everything in your business, yes. But there comes a moment when you just have to give it over to God. And I do the same thing with my videos. Says if these videos don't work anymore, I stop and change and let it be and move on to something else because everything has its cycle as well. And there may be a cycle come to an end, and that's fine too. And we have to let go of things. We shouldn't cling onto something. So being flexible, I think, is the key. And also being open to what are the new opportunities. A farmer continuously has to learn new ways of having a crop and etc. So you have to be open all the time to adjust to the new world and to make the crops more successful every year and whatever you can do. But there's only so much he can do. The rest he has to give over to divinity. And if it is, for me, it has been helpful to really consciously work with divinity, with God, because whatever I do, whether I write my letters, my emails in the morning, etc., I just feel I do this in line with the vibration of divinity. And hopefully, if I make a mess, they will show me that this was not right, or this thought wasn't right, and this word wasn't right. So I think it's very clearly they have ways to make me wake up. So this is basically how I work in a way, and it has worked so far well with me. But the ego, of course, comes always in. If I see that my latest video has only reached a few thousand people versus 20,000 before, my ego kicks in. What did you do wrong? What is wrong? And then comes a quiet answer and says, this subject was only interested to a small number of people, not for everyone else, and it only needed to be seen by one single viewer. All the others don't matter. But if that one viewer has a positive life change because he saw that video, that's all why you did it. And of course, in the first day, I did do all these videos for myself because I learned from these videos and I need that education. And I, of course, need to sort out my understanding of these spiritual teachings. So I'm the beneficiary and one person more. Everything else is gravy. If some more people see it, it's great, but I focus on myself and I hope that one other person enjoys as well. And if we do that in life, if we can do this in our work, I think that's a great idea. First of, am I benefiting, enjoying what I'm doing right now? It can be an accountant, it can be working in a factory, etc. Is there something in me where I can right now let this energy flow through me? Hopefully that one other person who comes into contact with my product will get the positive vibration. Because whatever we touch, every glass here, I'm touching here the energy of the person who designed the computer and the machinery, who made this machinery. Everything is energy, and we are leaving all our energies behind of whatever we do, whatever we touch. So every product I'm having in my house and your house has still the energies of the producer, of the person or crafter who did these products. And I'm continually surrounded by it. So if I hate my job and I don't like my job, that negative energy goes into this glass. And everybody who will touch this glass will come into contact with my negative energy, which I originally put into this product.
Wow. I There's a lot there, and I want to thank you for this. And I love that you mentioned your own experience with making videos and seeing the numbers go up and down. Just for some context for everybody who hasn't looked at your YouTube channel, YouTube is where you usually go, and I'll put links below. Um, you have you have over 100 videos already, and I was looking at over your videos. You have more than almost 70 of your 100 videos have more than 100,000 views.
That's
Okay.
it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't,
yeah, right. And that's the delight
yeah.
with which I'm just feeling about the situation is that you are making it what you said, you're making it for one other person. And sometimes I talk about this because a lot of my clients and audience are beginner content creators, and
Hmm.
they're having the opposite effect of I can't even get one person to watch my video, let alone 100,000 people. And so many of us, I mean, most content creators are beginners. I mean, in any field, of course, most people are beginners, right? And so there's so many struggling content creators who are like, I can't even. And so I always tell them, listen, imagine that one caring person who is right for you, who's somehow like made, part of their life journey was to discover your videos or your articles or whatever and be uplifted by that. And they really are out there. If you feel a calling to share a message, that person is out there, and you imagine that person, and that person will find you, and you make it and you release it. I said bless and let go. You publish it out there and you just let it go and see what happens. And I really like that you said, well, if it's a low reach, then the understanding as well, okay, this needed to reach a few people. And then maybe that's really important that your entire life was designed to reach these few people with this one particular video message. I think it's so empowering. And also it takes a very long view to accept this. And some people might say, well, it's easy for you to say because, George, you've got lots of views on your videos, enough views now. And Hans, you have enough views. I would love for you to okay, actually I have two questions here. I want to first address the fact that there are a lot of content creators that are very famous now. Okay, they have a lot of adoration. Okay, and I also want to address the people who are just getting started, who are feeling discouraged, right? But those who with a lot of adoration, you have videos that talk about the law of projection, the law of projection. So a lot of audience, well, influencers. It's funny that word, right? Influencer. I'm a big influence. You don't know who I am, you you meet someone. Oh, you have no idea how big of a deal I am, right? People growing up, young people want to be that. That I don't know if you've heard, but the YouTuber, right, is one of the top career choices now of young people. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to just make funny videos or interesting videos. And I have this adoring crowd. Anywhere I go, people want to take pictures with me. I want to be Mr. Beast, right? Who has 400 million subscribers now. And so tell us about that. And I will link to that video about the law of projection. But I just feel like a lot of young people, or just even adults, we lose touch with some spiritual understanding of what is going on here when we have crowds of people who are just, and I am aware of that, and probably you are as well. And I have to be aware of people leaving comments who say, I just love your stuff so much. And it's like yeah, I don't, and I've actually made a video before. I says, listen, I don't want to be your guru. I think I want to be someone who maybe sometimes says something like a friend on the side who says, oh, something that, oh, that's interesting idea. But I don't want to start a cult. I don't want to be a guru. But a lot of people do. I mean, literally in the content world, a lot of content creation mentors, say, hey, here's how to start a cult. How to start a cult following. They kind of use that term flippantly, and they really mean it. And say, here's how to persuade, here's how to get people hooked. Literally at the start of a video, it's called a hook. Hook. You hook people and addict them to keep watching. It's like, oh, by the end of this video, you keep watching because point number 4, you're not going to want to miss that point. And so tell us about what's going on here, and how might we think about what's going on with the spiritual world, and relating to influencing others.
Well, whenever I have the need to influence another person, I'm trying to put my understanding of the word onto you. That means the person who has to learn it firstly is me. I mean, the idea that I feel whatever comes up in me is something is meant for me. Whenever we speak, forget about videos, to another person, we only speak ourselves. We only say that what we are not sure about. We never speak about something of which we are 100% sure. Now, videos are a wonderful way to explore of what I'm not sure about. My videos are clearly done for myself to understand the spiritual laws. I make them so by drawing them out like I do here in my videos, from how the law of attraction works, the law of karma works, etc., with the planets and so on are coming back. When I draw that out, I understand it better. And what I do, my videos, is basically my own understanding I share with others. If it helps others, it's great. If not, also great. I have zero interest in convince anybody that what I share is right for them. And influencer, of course, whenever we try to influence somebody with anything, we are immediately attaching ourselves to the law of karma. Whenever I try to influence another person, influence meaning I maybe change his way of life in some way or what, and if this is a selfish reason, and I did, how shall I say, I deviate him from his original soul path, I am karmically responsible for that person. So if I tell go and everybody must be a millionaire and etc., and everybody must do this, etc., and people follow that idea, I am co-responsible for their decisions because I have put these decisions into their mind. That's why the word influence is an extremely dangerous word, and people are not aware the danger they're doing. And by even showing videos of how wonderful they are doing and vacation in Hawaii and whatever is and Machu Picchu and so on. It's in a way showing off, making other people envious, put people down. It does have karmic influences. Let us not be aware, ignore it. It is our ego trying to show off, and it always comes back to us. So I fully understand for a young person wanting to be an influencer. When I was young, I also wanted to change the world. It is absolutely normal. I wanted because I knew all the answers. And I can fully understand that. And that's the beauty where age comes in, that after a while, this was okay, but now I let everybody have their own dance. I do not interfere with wherever they want to dance. This can even include the politics. So I let them all have their dance. That probably comes with age in a way. So I understand why young people want to be influencer, because everybody wants to show off when you are young and want to impress the girls or the boys. But we get a bit older, then let us think about this more carefully and be aware of the danger, because if we bring another person off from the original path, we are co-responsible.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that a lot. And also understanding that a lot of people in my audience are maybe have already maybe matured past the stage of saying, well, I want, adoring fans, but we are constantly influenced by people in my field who says you need a big audience in order to have a great business. And so they just, well, gosh, if I need a big audience, and I'm going to do whatever I need to use clever, persuasion techniques, and, basically be out of my own natural authenticity, but maybe copy someone's formula or be like that person because that person's really entertaining, in order to get an audience, so that there's a lot of this means to an end. I have to do all these things, so which doesn't feel soulful, so that I can finally have a client that I'm soulful in front of. And I always tell people, means to an end is the beginning of wrongdoing. Because
Hmm.
if you just care about the end is the end, oh, the end is so noble, but whatever I need to do to get there,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
And right? I mean, what do you think about this idea of, oh, well, whatever I need to do to my noble intention is to be doing my soulful work with the client. Marketing sometimes is dirty. Sometimes I have to, hype up my things a little bit and say things that are not entirely true. And my conscience says, maybe you shouldn't say that. But if you say this, you'll get people to sign up.
Yeah, I can understand it. Of course, there are so
Sure,
many
sure.
programs offered on YouTube and so on that that. But again, comes to the question: why am I doing what I'm doing? What is the purpose? And also, why if I what is lacking in my own life? I remember, I mean, children books I made the reason because somehow I was catching up with my own childhood. That was the reason which came out of it. So why do I want whatever I'm trying to sell here, whether it's cosmetic or whether it's or hay or whatever on the internet or whether in classes, what is actually the essence of that, what I want to push other people to do? That is what I firstly have to learn most in my life, I think. So I think in my failing energies of my project and so on is the answer for what maybe for I have to do first for myself. Because the outside world is nothing in a mirror. And if the mirror is just whatever the mirror is reflecting back to us, it's only ourselves. So if the people are not lining up and so on, then there is something in our not authentic in our own kind of image what we want to bring across. So my first suggestion idea would be to find out what is the real deep motive why I want to sell this particularly product to other people, why I want them to have that product. And it can be a very genuine and clean reason and so on, then it's fine. But is there maybe another way? Maybe YouTube is not the only one, but what happened to the old-fashioned going from house to house and sell it or whatever? There may be other ways of doing it. YouTube is not for everyone, I think, and it's changing every day. I can't keep up with the latest gadgets they invent and so on. So there may be other ways of doing it, but I always find out what is it what I want to bring out into the world. Because mostly it's meant for me, and if it's for someone else, maybe I can connect with the person directly without going through YouTube.
Yeah, thank you for that. There are increasingly infinite ways to reach people.
Yeah.
And yes, there are dominant players, and we think we have to do this, we have to do that. No, not necessarily. You allow yourself to think outside the box and be creative. And I want to say again, recently I've realized that I wanted to say this message more, which is that you don't need a big audience to have a great business. It's like for most of my clients who are coaches and healers, what are you going to do with 1 million followers? You can't take 1 million clients. You could
Right.
at least maybe 10 clients, 20 clients at a time. It's like if you really believe in the work, but when you serve someone, are they really served? Are they really delighted and helped? And if so, it's chances are they're going to talk about your work.
Yeah.
And if they're not talking about the work, I mean, that's how your video spread. People talk about it. It's not like somehow you're going out there and sending it to 1 million people. No, people are spreading it. And
Mhm.
some videos don't spread, right? That's your product. And for us, it's like our service. When we serve somebody, some people talk about it. Oh, that's more of my type of client. This person, this type of client, I serve them. They don't get as much out of it. They don't talk about it. Okay, now I know. Maybe I'm meant to work with these people more. And so it's so maybe you could take a moment to share some encouragement for those of us who are early in our business or career, and we so believe in our service. I do this life coaching, or I do this holistic healing, and how come not everybody is piling on my door? And I really believe in it. I know I've healed myself, or I've transformed myself, and maybe I've even helped a friend or two, or something. How, and I really believe in it, and I'm getting discouraged. Is it somehow God telling me that the universe telling me that I should quit? Do you have a few words
Uh,
of wisdom for that
Moment,
person?
I'm pulling a blank here because I'm trying to put myself into that situation. What would I do if I would have that situation and so on? I don't know. I can't answer that because it's individual. Sometimes it may be just a simple blockage because I don't recognize a certain thing. Sometimes it can be really something which is not my spiritual path to do something else. So I have to find out, I come back to the original thing. Why am I doing it? what is it why I have this need to give this person, etc. Like in my instance, why do I give children books to people? Because I wanted to heal my own childhood. So I was using basically, so to speak, the books to heal myself. And therefore, I think the answer is lies always in the reason, why am I doing this? What is the original reason why I feel everybody needs this? And there may be the answer on that one. And the numbers are not important, but maybe there are also other ways of doing it. There are other things. For instance, you mentioned the technology. I mean, everybody is now jumping to TikTok and so on. And I tried TikTok a little bit. It's very cumbersome. It's very difficult for me. I'd really struggle with it, I must say. And besides, my messages are true. I would say they cannot be put in 3 sentences. I have to go a bit deeper. I cannot do it in a few seconds. So I'm struggling with this kind of media. So I'm holding back on it. I do very little of it. But so sometimes these certain things are not right for me. So I just sort of step back or use it only sparingly. No, I will not be able to answer you a real good
Yeah.
answer. This why does a certain business not work for you? I would always go uh, for me, it's always go back into deep meditation or with prayer with God. I may not get any direct answer, but share that, whatever it is, what bothers me, with divinity, and truly says, "Look, I do everything. This is my what I've planned, this, etc. How can I serve divinity, God, with this? And if it's not right, show me another way. And let me my eyes be open to another way."
Mm.
And there, I think maybe the answer, this would probably work for me best, that I would then eventually, when everything fails, which happened in my life many times, not in my business, but in other relationships, etc., that I then go within and it says, okay, this didn't work out. I feel very miserable. What's the message here? How can I change it? And in the deep meditation and dialogue with divinity, which can be actually verbal, which I prefer, I very often are guided to an answer, or at least a calm disposition that in my quietness I can feel or hear or receive some form of answer or response. So I would go within myself to find out what is it here, what is the stumbling block here, because the answers are all in ourselves. The whole world is nothing but a projection of ourselves. The God's kingdom is in us. Everything is in us. So if there is a problem and the world out there, that problem is in us. So let's solve it there. If we can't find it easily, I would personally always go to divinity, to God or to Christ, and help them to show me in a way might be my next way. And also, I think, which is very important, is to give me an idea, because if things don't work out, I become anxious. I can be frightened. I can be worried. My ego is challenged, etc. It doesn't work out how my ego has planned it. I know, first of all, need the quietness, the inner stillness again, to really truly reflect, not from the intellect, from the ego, but from the heart level. So the prayer and meditation going within can help me to reach that inner stillness for a much better and deeper reflection than I normally can have. Because if jobs or things, business doesn't go right, I am easily in my fearful ego. And there the answers are not really there. The answers are much deeper. So for me, I would say go within and discuss it in words. Where you are, what you have done. Be very honest, like a little child to the father, and says, "This is what I've done. This is what I've planned. My intentions, I thought were right. Maybe you can share me somewhere else. Maybe the reason why I want this, maybe there's something better for me waiting. I put it into your hand to help me, because the answers to all problems are already solved in the future. It's just that we don't see it always, because there's the answer. Every problem is solved already in his hands."
I love that. Thank you for uh, the energy with which you shared that reflection, and I think that's a healing reflection. Um, okay, we our time is almost up, and I still have a couple of
We
important
just
questions.
started.
I know we just started. I have a couple of important questions. Really love your perspective on, and whatever you're currently thinking about it. Um, Technology. I want to talk about this. It's obviously all such a huge influence in all of our lives now. The fact that anyone's watching this, of course, and especially now, the new form of technology is artificial intelligence, AI. Um, I don't know that you've talked a lot about your perspective about AI in various interviews, so I'd love your perspective on it. I mean, I'm very open-minded to different views on this, so please be truthful and honest with what you think about it. I tend to take on a much more I'm a much more of a tech optimist. So I see the future that's possible. Like what lots of people say, what could go wrong? I'm like, well, what could go right? You know, lots could go right. We don't know the future. What we can do, of course, is to do our best to steer our actions and yeah, our votes and our activism or whatever we do in the more positive direction. But I'm really curious if you have any thoughts on how does AI relate to the spiritual world? And just your honest thoughts on that interaction, entities, AI, is there what connection might there be that you see?
Well, all form of technology which we're using here, the positive, for instance, but take the telephone, take the cars, take the airplanes, are all inventions of our ego to sort of do the same thing here on planet Earth, which we as spiritual beings have been doing without. We were able to communicate together without telephones. We were moving, flying around. We didn't need anything in the spiritual world. And here on the planet Earth, we redeveloped it because it's similar to what our life is in spirituality. But what we have done in the way, we have basically outsourced ourselves into all these different technologies. For instance, in the telephone, it's all our skills we have now given over to this iPhone here, for instance. I don't no longer multiply 25 by 57 without using the computer. I don't do that anymore. I mean, we are totally depending on these things. And AI is just another step further. We totally outsource our innate intelligence, not the intellect as well, but most of our intelligence over to another intellectual kind of entities. And we trust them, they will do it for us when everything what we ever will need is in us. It should be called more in artificial intellect, not the artificial intelligence. It may appear intelligent, but it doesn't have the soul element and it doesn't have the intelligence. But intellectually, it can surely solve a lot of problems, illness, etc. But it doesn't have the intelligence, the deep spiritual intelligence that is in us. So our problem is that we outsource more and we become more and more like a robot to things which we have invented. We think for our convenience, but basically we have lost all our capacity. When do we do, for instance, we can interact with a telepathy, for instance, with people. We can feel, but we don't do this. We don't develop the skill of telepathy anymore because we totally trust our telephone more. So all these skills we have given over to machineries in many different forms. And that is the negative point that we have basically harming ourselves by outsourcing everything to out there. And that comes back to us because all these things are the invention of the ego, of the intellect, and I would say eventually of the negative entities, because the negative entities basically control us now. It is now the telecommunication here in America. We have got only 2 or 3 networks control what we see on television, etc. It's all in deep control. I'm not speaking about conspiracy here much, but in a way, it is all in the hands of not divinity, the opposite of divinity. That's how I see it. So there is no way to escape AI. I have used it also, and I will probably use it continuously, but I'm aware that the intelligence is in me. It's not in the computer.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective on that. To be honest, AI was actually essential for me to prepare for this interview too, because I was able to feed in 67 of your YouTube videos. I sorted by the most popular and it fed in 67 YouTube links into Google's Notebook LM, which then created a summary. And I was able to chat with those sources to say, well, what might Hans say about this? And what other questions aren't being asked? It was extremely useful. As otherwise, I would have had to watch 67 videos and
Oh
deeply
my
understand.
gosh.
Yeah, yeah. So
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
it's
Scary.
amazing. Yeah,
Scary.
it's scary, but it's the content's already out there. So
Yeah.
AI is just basically analyzing what's going on here. And it's good. I feel like if we train AI on spiritual content, it's probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing.
Can be used for the positive, of course. Yeah.
Positive. Okay, I have one final question, and I know we have just a few minutes left, and this may be a little bit of a controversial question because I know that you have various spiritual influences, backgrounds, teachers. Edgar Casey, I know, and Byron Katie, you've worked with even, and then Gabriella has been the biggest influence. I'll be honest, I haven't read any of Gabriella's books yet, but I've heard you talk about Gabriella a lot. One of the things that concerned me right away when I heard about Gabriella, this might be interesting data point for you, is when Gabriella claims to be channeling Jesus Christ, and you probably have gotten this objection or question before, that made the hair stand up on the top of my, top of my head. It's like, oh no, is claiming, I'm so agnostic, and I'm so not agnostic. I really deeply have a faith about the afterlife, etc. But I want to learn from everybody, and so I get worried when there's a source that says, no, this is directly from God. You have to trust me. And at the same time, I hear how pure Gabriella's life seemed to be, and I really value. I think pure channels have a special place of conveying spiritual information. And so I'm just curious how you would speak to that claim about Gabriella channeling the highest source. How might we look at that? What if we don't believe it? Any thoughts on that? Be great.
My main purpose is not to convince anybody. I
Okay.
have zero interest whether anybody believes what I even say or the books which come Gabriela. That is not my purpose at all, because as I said earlier, we have to be careful of how we want to influence another person. Everybody comes to the material when they are ready. For me, there was no question when I read the material, and I've studied it now for nearly 40 years, that and compare it with all the other spiritual paths which I've done, Course in Miracles and Conversation with God and many, many, many others. There's nothing which comes as close, as detailed as this one. And as you see from my videos, they're all linked together. There is no contradiction. You find answer for everything. I haven't found this in any other path. But the main reason is why I like this compared to many other paths, because I've seen the changes in my own life. When I take these teachings which Christ gave or other spiritual teachers, they work in my life. And therefore, I have no question. If it comes from anybody else, if it works, that's fine with me. So I don't have a need to question that. For me, it is no problem because I see the material, I read the material, and they touch me on a very different level than most other materials. And I'd like to mention also one final point with Gabriela, as you probably found out. There's hardly any photos on her. She died last year, but she made it a point of never being worshipped, never being seen as anybody special. She was always in the background. She was very, very sure that she didn't want any kind of cult around her. And there are also no teachers in this organization, which are very important. And there is no organization to join. All there is are these books. And anybody who's interested in material just has to buy these books or go watch my videos or to see the
Yeah.
links to the television station. So I feel the humbleness of her and the materials convinced me, but I cannot make anybody convinced that this is right for them. Most likely,
Right.
it may not be right for anybody to believe that. And that's absolutely fine.
I wish more religious people could have this um, detached way of conveying their message. I really appreciate how you come about this. So, Hans, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for the work that you do. It really is influencing people, I think, in a very positive way. I find a lot of coherence in your message, and so thank you for your work.
Thank you for inviting me. I was delighted to have met you and
Yeah,
speak to your audience. Thank you,
thank you.
George. I wish you all the best.